Okay, so we're back under the car. So now we're just going to continue with the rest of the swap parts and part of the kit that you need to install. You're going to install the clutch line. That just goes in there. It's a little hard to do by hand, one hand. So basically, I'll just thread that in, tighten it. I'll do that here in a second. And then this is the battery cable, a 0 gauge, and this goes directly to the starter. So it's gonna go right on top here. So that stud right there. And then you're gonna do your hose, lower hose, and this one we have a K24 one that's pointed up. So we're just gonna do a 90 with the fill piece in the middle. Our hose are made for the K20 housing or the soil ones, the ones that point down. So this is the short hose, and then so when that one is pointed down, it's gonna be, you know, something like this, and you could trim the hose, you know, to fit. Also, we put one of these engine grounds. Just go from usually here and somewhere on the girdle block or there, and then just make sure you clean up the finish or the surface with a wire wheel or something. So we're just gonna clean this up with the wire brush a little bit. So just clean that one up, and then just clean this one up a little bit so you have some good contact for your ground. Okay, so we went ahead and installed the ground line, ground strap. Tighten up the clutch line, and then we ran this hose. All we did was cut the one that we provide for the K20 ones, and then kind of just rotated it around, and then used the fill piece here from the pipe that we cut. And that's just worst case scenario if you don't have a billet swivel housing or a Type S one that points down. That's what you would have to do to make that one work with that lower radiator hose, unless you just make your own. And then we install this hose here. And this just routes up, goes around, and into the filler neck at the top there. And these are only guaranteed to work around our shifter brackets. Some other shifter brackets might be wider, longer, and interfere. And then when your swap harness is all done and completed, and you got that all back into the car, you would just run your alternator wire through, and then it would just come into here.
All right, so I don't know if you guys could see it, but coming out of the swap harness here, you have the power wire for the alternator. Just run it back across the firewall, and then run it to the alternator down here. Hook it up. It's like a 10mm bolt. You just bolt that on,
and then you would be done pretty much with everything under the car here as far as the swap wise. And we got the starter wire. That's all screwed in or tightened down. See it there. Okay, now we're working up above. So we got everything else done below for now. So this is your hose is going to go right here. Then we're going to put a ground strap from here to here, or wherever you want to pick, how you want to route it. Then we're going to put another ground strap to the valve cover right here, and usually to that post, or you could put it right there. And then also, this is still loose for now because we're going to pull the plugs out to prime the engine with oil to get it through the turbo, but this you need to hook up your ground. This is the engine ground here. That's where the ECU gets its ground from. So if that's not hooked up, the ECU will not turn on. Also, the fuel pump won't kick on. And then this is your booster line. So you're gonna hook that up there. These are your heater lines, and this one's not gonna be running heat. So then we just plug that, and then we plug the thermostat housing in the under the car. And then we'll feed the cables through and then hook those up. I'll show you here in a bit. Okay, we got the ground strap on. Just make sure you wire wheel those and get them down to bare metal for good contact. We put this one down in here. And then and that's where the fuel regulator goes. With our kits, everything is plumbed to go there. So that is your vacuum line for the 1-to-1 turbo. So if you're going turbo, you need to run that to a vacuum block or to your intake manifold, like we tapped under there, under the bottom of it. If you go in NA, you don't have to run anything to it. Then we're gonna go ahead and install this line here from the fuel rail to the regulator there. So we tighten up that line. So just make sure that you kind of angle that 45 up so you clear the belt and the pulley. And we got that hose hooked up. So then we'll just run our overflow. We typically put it right here, and then that's your nipple to feed that. So we'll go ahead and install that. So this is just like a generic overflow fill that we provide with our kits. We do sell upgraded ones that we custom make, and those mount right here, and then they'll sit here. We'll post a picture there later. So this is what that looks like. You will have to bend these tabs out a little bit to give you a little bit clearance there, and then we just run that hose from the bottom of it to the overflow. And you don't necessarily need to put a clamp on there. You could if you want, but it doesn't see any pressure unless you blow the cap or you blow a head gasket. That's the only time you'll see pressure back into here. Now also would be a good time just to go ahead and do your fluids. Do the transmission fluid. You could do it. We usually fill it from here. Just put 2 quarts in. There's an overflow there. Well, you know you're at the top. And or you could also put it in through the reverse sensor. And obviously just remember to put oil in your engine, and if the motor has been sitting, it's a good thing to prime it. Usually you just prime it without the spark plugs, so the motor just turns over easier. And if you're doing turbo, it's a good way to go through all the extra line that you can have for the turbo to feed the return and to prime the turbo itself with oil. Here we are back in the engine bay. Pull the speedo out, and then just putting in some tranny fluid. Typically we use just some synchro mesh, either the GM or AMSOIL or the Torco. RTF fluid works really good too.